Hey, what's up, everybody? If you're new here, welcome in, and if you've been here before, welcome back. I'm Rollshambo, connoisseur and collector of all things sharp and shiny. This is the Boker Plus Pocket Smatchet, or for the sake of this overview, we're just going to refer to it as the Boker Smatchet because, yeah, you'll notice that this blade is absurd. Let's not dance around it. This is not art, or is this absurd? This is just absurd. Beautiful looking dagger style blade. And I'll be honest, this isn't a knife that you buy because you need it. This is a knife that you buy because you want it. We're going to dive into an overhead view so I can do a close up and show you everything from the edge, the handle scales, the pocket clip. We'll go over dimensions and then we'll compare it against some other knives because once you start comparing this to other knives, it's pretty interesting. Let's dive in. So typically with a dagger blades are almost exclusively used for self-defense. I don't think that you could call this a self-defense knife. But then again, you can use a knife for whatever you want. I mean, it's true. I don't suggest taking this to the warehouse floor like, I'm going to cut some boxes today. You know, it might just be a little weird. I might pick something else for the job. Nevertheless, this is a knife that you buy not because you need it, because it's definitely not necessary, but it is one that you buy because you want it. Maybe you were like me, and as a kid, you wanted a sword, but your parents were smart and said, no, you can't have a sword, you're 7. They should say that, especially when you're 7. Let's talk about the knife. You can get this in a lot of different styles. You can get this with a black blade. You can get this with Micarta scales. You can get this with Micarta scales and a satin blade. You can get it with rosewood handles and a satin blade like this one. You get it with rosewood handles and a black blade. It has steel liner locks. Or rather, it has steel liner. And if you look inside there, you'll see that they didn't really mill it out. I mean, there might be a little milling in there, but it's not much. This is one of those knives that I would honestly prefer if they had a backspacer, even though it would make it heavier, because it would keep things from falling in and hitting this blade. That is completely exposed. Just a little design thing. Here's another part which does kind of annoy me. It has 2 different types of screws. The pivot screw is a Torx T8, and I'm pretty sure that the body screws are like a Torx T6. Yeah, that sounds about right. There is some styling on the handles, and it's the same styling if you get Micarta or if you get the rosewood handles, and it matches this pocket clip. You know what? I hope Civivi or We is paying attention. Look, here's a knife that costs $99. You know what I don't see? I don't see this monstrosity. You want to talk about absurd? These pocket clips are absurd. Less than $100, 99. I know, it's close. And you get a pocket clip which, you know, instead of just being functional, it actually looks cool too. This pocket clip is steel. Nothing on this one is titanium. I know, boo-hoo. I wouldn't be taking this through the rainforest. I'd probably take something else. What else do you got? This is a large knife. It comes in at 9¼ inches long in total, with a blade that's 4 inches long, and the cutting edge on that blade is 3¾ inch long, so 3.75. It's not small. This is one of those knives that you take to work because you know you have that one friend that's like, hey, check out my knife. And then they come by and they whip out this thing, you know? You're like, oh, isn't that cool? And you're like, that's not a knife. That's a knife. And you take out that thing and they feel inadequate because size matters. I said it. Size matters. Nothing against this knife, by the way. This is the Sencut Brazoria. I've got the first ever YouTube review of this knife. I'll go ahead and link it up. Wait, there we go. I'll link it up in the corner. Check it out. Let's compare this against a larger pocket knife. This is the Spyderco Manix 2. It's bigger than the Manix 2. What about if I was to put it up against, say, this guy? Wee Chimera. Wee Chimera is getting closer, but it's still shorter. I would say it's about a 1/4 inch shorter. And this is a large knife. So, give some perspective. There you have it. Boker Plus Pocket Smatchet is going to be the biggest knife in the room in most cases. And if it's not, you're probably in the wrong room. Just going to throw that out there. Before I put away all the knives, I know that the first thing everyone's going to say is, yeah, dude, it's big, it looks cool, but how can I carry something like that? Quite easily, actually. And by the way, while we're closing this, I just want to point out, check out that lockup. That is about, to my eyes, that's about 40 to 42%. I'm getting pretty technical on you there. But that means that there is no blade play. Up, down, side to side, back and forth. That's in there solid, and it needs to be, because that's a big freaking blade. And so if you do end up using this for something, you have a lot of faith knowing that it's not going to fail you. It's in there solid. It's not going nowhere. Now, as far as the action, because that blade is heavy, and this knife is about 5 ounces, the action on it is great. The blade carries everything. And it's easy to shut one-handed because everything's so big. It uses a thumb disc instead of a thumb stud. And it's crazy to me that you can actually remove that thumb disc. That is a tiny, like, T2, T3 Torx bit thing right there. Maybe it's bigger than that. Maybe it's like a T5. I don't know. But my point is that do not remove this if you buy it, because this is the only way to open it. You can't middle finger flick it without it. You can't regular flick it without it. That thumb disc is the only method of deploying. It's adequate, it's snappy, and even though it only has one method of deploying, it's still pretty fidgety because it just feels so good to whip it out. I'm going to leave that one alone. Yeah, no, that's a cool knife. And you might have noticed that it has a bit of a shiny polished edge. I've had this for about a year. And the first thing that I did was put a mirror edge on here because I thought it looked cool. There it is. It did make it a lot sharper. And it made it so taking pictures of it, you know, for things like Instagram, which, by the way, if you're interested in, you can catch me on Instagram, Rollshambo_edc. Come find me. But that is cool. The only thing that would be cooler is if you could actually put a secondary edge on here. This is a false edge. That ain't cutting nobody. There's going to be somebody out there who's like, well, you should go ahead and sharpen that because it would look much better. Here's the problem. In your pocket, that would slice you up. You'd be bleeding from an arterial wound because you wanted your knife to look cool. Don't do that. The false edge needs to be there. It doesn't fully fit in the handle scales. Leave it alone. If they made this into a fixed blade, then yeah, that would make sense with something like a Kydex sheath. Yeah. So, let's talk price. This is $99. Yes, it's VG10. Yes, it has steel components. Yes, the Rosewood handles aren't super expensive, you know, and they're not very water resistant. They won't rust, but they're not water resistant. They do absorb the natural oils from your hands. But for $100, what you're getting is what you wanted as a kid. But the difference is that unlike getting arrested for carrying a sword through Walmart, you can actually put this in your pocket. Similar carry profile, like I mentioned, to the Spyderco Manix 2. You can carry this. Don't put it in your sports shorts, but, when you're wearing jeans or cargo shorts, yeah, I've carried this plenty. It's a beautiful knife. And it's not all about the knife steel composition either. HRC plays a role. I did some research after I bought this because I was wondering, what's the hardness rating on this steel? The average hardness rating for this specific knife is about 61, which is phenomenal. Would I prefer the custom by Chuck? Yes, I would, because it would have premium blade steel and premium handle materials and premium hardware and, backspacer. But good luck finding one of those. If you want one of these, I would get them while you can. $99, you can find it on Blade HQ, you can find it on Amazon. In fact, I'm going to link to it down below. If you click on one of those links, it helps the channel. Don't feel like you have to buy something just to help me out, but if you're going to Amazon anyways, go through my link, you help support the channel.